Today I'm going to talk about another one of Alan Moore's projects, which is From Hell. In this case, I have the Master Edition, hardbound. Um, so this was originally written in 1989, and it is very much a a story-driven comic because I was never a fan of the artwork. You can tell I will say this. It kind of, I don't know if this was the intention, but it does kind of look like it was almost created in the time where this took place in like Victorian era. So it says here in color. It was not originally in color, and I'm never a fan of adding color. I think that the problem is they did it with Judge Dredd. They did it with Miracle Man, and the problem is that when you're producing a comic that's intended to be in black and white, you do the inking a specific way. It tends to have a lot of heavy inking, and when you add color to it, it tends to look rather ugly and muddy. This is the one comic where I actually think it works, and I think it works because they do it so sparingly. And I also think that it kind of gives it even more of a look like it's from the era in which the story takes place. So I think in this one case, I really liked the addition of the color, because again, you could see that it's very subtle. I had the paperback version, but I upgraded to this Master Edition, and I can tell you that just comparing the two, I thought this looked a lot better. So this is about Jack the Ripper, and so Jack the Ripper famously was never caught. Nobody ever figured out who he was. So Alan Moore was, I guess, intrigued by the story, and so he did a ton of research. And so if you go in here, in the back of the book, he's got his own annotation, which is quite lengthy. And basically this is kind of explaining things that happen in the story, and how they are based on reality in his research. And so in his research, he speculated on who Jack the Ripper was. I did a little bit of research on my own just to see how other people felt about Alan Moore's speculation on who did it, and it seems like his culprit is not generally the one that's seen. I don't know. I'd speculate it's probably a nobody. I know it's more sexy to have it be somebody of importance. But regardless of whether Alan Moore is correct in his analysis or not, it is a fantastic story. I highly recommend it. You could see that it's not a verbose story. There's definitely dialogue, but not a ton. Oh, here's okay. We get quite a bit of dialogue. So they came out with a film in 2001. Had Johnny Depp, Heather Graham, Robbie Coltrane, who I found out just died. So sorry to Robbie Coltrane. He was also in the Harry Potter movies and in several James Bond movies. So that's where I first saw him, was in James Bond. And this is, I want to say that they've made 3 movies out of Alan Moore's, and he wanted nothing to do with, I believe, any of the projects. And I kind of get it. You know, I was a little bit on the fence. You know, geez, he's so stubborn. But I get it, because League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was a travesty. And I think the most insulting thing was that they took his idea and created a completely new story. And he had a great story. He had a fantastic story. So why they made an entirely new story, I don't get. This movie, it got mediocre reviews, 57% on Rotten Tomatoes. Made, more than doubled its budget. So it probably came a little bit closer to breaking even, despite a pretty good cast. So as always, Alan Moore wasn't a fan of the project, and I get it because they just like to tinker with his stuff or sometimes just radically change it. I know that I'm actually a fan of the Watchmen movie, but I did not like the fact that they changed the ending. They made the ending quite different and not better, in my opinion. I thought the ending of Alan Moore's story was fantastic. So I don't think he gets paid for these things because he wants nothing to do with them. So I watched the movie years ago, and I should watch it again. I do like V for Vendetta. And, actually, they've made 4 movies: V for Vendetta, From Hell, Watchmen, and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So V for Vendetta, I'm trying to remember if they made any major changes in that. I know they made some changes, but I'd have to research on what his feelings are about that. But I think From Hell, this is another one I highly recommend. I'm not going to recommend everything I go through. I know. So far, I've recommended everything. Alan Moore has such a high track record of success that there's very few things that he's written that I don't recommend. So this one is very intriguing. I mean, it would be more intriguing if it turned out he was correct. That would be cool, but I don't think at this point they're ever going to determine who Jack the Ripper was. And the Master Edition, I don't remember what I want. I think this is one of the few books for some reason I didn't get around to reviewing it, but I do like it very much. I think it's a very nice version of the book. So this is another one from Alan Moore that I highly recommend picking up. It's From Hell.